Coach Kelly here, and I always say that I have a very special guest, and Leah is a very special guest. I've had some epic guests in the past, but considering what she and I are going to be talking about today and the significance of our relationship and what we're going to be doing together over the next handful of months and really for the next year, this is the most impactful video potentially that I've ever made. So Leah Swanson is the executive director of the Red River region for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And about a month ago, I was at the gym one morning working out, and I guess it was just on my heart because she's not my stepmom, she's just Louise. She's been in that position for about 28 years now, but she's going through breast cancer. She had her surgery about a month ago, and that all went well. And now she's gearing up for about 10 rounds of radiation. But I've had cancer impact my family. I've lost 2 clients to cancer in the last 6 years since I've been a fitness professional at Lifetime. I have 2 current clients that are cancer survivors. I have 2 current clients that have lost family members in just recent years from cancer. And I got the idea that, because I am maniacal about my workouts, I thought an old-fashioned walkathon and, getting pledges, and I'm crazy about my workouts, and I have this little social media platform that's growing. I wonder if I could put those 2 things together. I thought that's a good idea. And then, like, how in the world would I do that? So I reached out to a best friend who is very well connected. He's very civically minded. And I was thinking that maybe he had done some fundraising, in his past. Well, he had not, but he thought it was a good idea. And he said, keep me up to date with what you're doing. And then he replies back later that afternoon and says, oh, by the way, I'm on the committee for I'm going to say LLS for short, it's easier to say. Would you like me introduce you to the big boss? Like, well, yeah. And so Bruce sends the email, introduces Leah and I, and next thing I know, she's reaching out saying, how can I help? And here we are. So with that background, welcome, Leah. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Excited to be here, and so nice to meet you, Kelly.
Well, thank you. So I'm going to start peppering you with questions. In May of 2001, you started as the youth marketing director with the American Heart Association. You were with them for 17 years and you worked your way up through the ranks. How did you get started with them? And just kind of tell me, for that background, tell me about that.
Yeah. So, it's funny. It kind of goes back to training. Honestly, I was a marathon runner back in the day. And so when I found the position at American Heart, I started in a position that I was fundraising and helping, people reach their fundraising goals, as well as, completing a marathon. And I thought I always wanted to, do something that was helping others. And so that was just kind of the perfect fit for me. And I did that for several years and ended up moving into the school area. And it actually brought me here to Texas. I was in Florida at the time. So it brought me here to Texas and moved in various different roles with American Heart. But, always be a very special place in my heart, no pun intended, for the American Heart Association. But yeah, that's kind of how I got started. And it was a very good career for me, and how I ended up, staying in nonprofit and coming over to Leukemia Lymphoma Society.
So, and that's the next question. What changed? I mean, what caused you to make the change to LLS?
Yeah, so certainly in nonprofit, you see people that I had worked with from American Heart that had come over to Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and I had several close friends that just raved about the organization, the innovation, the impact that we were making. And at the same time, my grandmother passed away from leukemia. I remember it very vividly. My aunt had lymphoma. My other aunt had breast cancer. My mom had blood cancer, and I had a cancer diagnosis as well. So it just kind of felt like my world was telling me that I really needed to, be at a cancer non-for-profit. And it was scary leaving an organization in a position, after that much time. But I came, finally said yes after a lot of some fear, but it was, never look back, best decision I've ever made.
So again, I'm talking to the audience. When Lee and I first met, it was a phone call. I was sitting in my car in the parking lot before going into work, but she she prefaced that most people don't know that at the base level of the war against cancer, that blood is kind of the common denominator. And so, like, why am I? Because none of the people that I've known, family otherwise, have been impacted by leukemia or lymphoma in particular. But if I had to pick one, and what Leah shared with me is that, and I'll let you explain where LLS came from, but the impact that y'all have in the overall war against cancer.
Yeah, no. So, first off, Leukemia Lymphoma Society has been through different names over the 70, we're coming up on 75 years. It was started by a family that lost their 16-year-old son to leukemia. At the time, it was an absolutely fatal disease with no options available. And so we've come so far, but going back to, your statement, leukemia, lymphoma are both in our names, but there's like 100 types of blood cancer. So a very common one is multiple myeloma. And that was actually what my mom was diagnosed with. And I didn't realize, even though I had a ton of friends that worked at Leukemia Lymphoma Society when my mom was diagnosed, they were reaching out to me. And I thought, well, like, I don't know how you're going to help me. People don't necessarily understand, all the different types of blood cancer that fall under, the LLS umbrella. And so blood is easier to transport. It's easier to treat. And so almost half of our FDA approvals are now being used on other types of cancer. So brain, breast, lungs, even things like rheumatoid arthritis. They really do we believe that we will see a cure to cancer in our lifetime. And it's not just one cure, it's multiple cures, because you really do have to have that targeted therapy to treat the cancer. But we do believe that it'll be because of the blood cancer research that leads us to that overall cures.
So when she told me that, I thought, I'm in. I mean, that's, because I didn't have any connection with any other organization, and it just seemed like it was meant to be. So give me a favorite patient success story that you've been involved with.
Oh, there's so many, truly. I keep a box of tissues by my desk, in my purse and my jackets, because truly, like, there's tears that are shed, happy tears, and there's also tears that are shed that are not so happy. And so, I mean, there's so many, but I have a soft spot in my heart to see adults go through cancer treatment, but especially our kids. And so there is a child that comes to mind. He is 19 years old. He's been battling on and off since he was 2. Many of 50% of kids relapse. This particular boy, Jude, he's battled now 5 times. He just finally got to go off to college and kind of restart his life. And he actually just landed, I saw yesterday, in Philadelphia for another treatment, but he has relapsed, and he's beat cancer 4 times, and he's on his fifth go around with it. So there's nothing more in my life that I want for kids to be able to live and be kids, and for someone to grow up and not have their whole life be about cancer. So that's probably, for me, success story is a couple, weeks ago, they didn't really know what that next option was going to be. And now there's a clinical trial. So while he's still working on his next success story, I would say that, the fact that there's another option available after a 5th relapse is a success to me. And so, continue to just root on all of our, child survivors that are battling. And we are doing this because we need to make sure that nobody hears the words that there are no treatment options available. And so I saw that on his mom's page, and it just broke my heart. And then I saw, wait, there is a treatment available option, and he's off to Philadelphia to CHOP Hospital and starting his treatment today. So that's just one of the many stories that I could tell you.
Really, is it? I want to ask you this, segue back to him. On that first call, you said that when the LLS was founded, that the survival rate was pitifully low. What is it today?
So it depends. We have obviously so many different diagnoses. So it really does, depend on the actual diagnosis. But I would say, probably anywhere from 40 to 90, right? Just depending on the diagnosis between, leukemia, there's AML, there's ALL, there's Hodgkin, non-Hodgkin, so myeloma. So I would say that the the degrees of survival rate will vary depending on, the actual diagnosis.
Seeing what you just said, that just resonates all the more with me, that all those names, none of those are specifically LLS or not, I'm sorry, leukemia or lymphoma, but they all fall under the same umbrella. So
Right.
y'all
Right. And
really are.
there's an acronym for everything as well. So AML is actually leukemia. But,
Okay.
so there's lots of different, but there's so many different subtypes and, different types of cancer even underneath, each one. So yeah, there's lots of them.
So I was going to ask you, back to the patient, the young man that you mentioned. In my mind, there's chemo and radiation and surgery, and that's very ignorant. I'm just not knowledgeable. But clearly, there's a lot of other treatments out there beyond just those two. Am I correct?
Yeah, I mean, for blood cancer, especially, having a stem cell transplant is very common. And so there's different types of stem cell transplants as well. LLS has actually invested over $80 million in CAR T cell therapy, which, not to get into the geeky research, but CAR T was initially funded by LLS and is now, even being used on other types of cancer as well. But that is truly, it's the HIV virus that is re-engineered to be able to attack the cancer cells and just kill the cancer, which is instead of basically blasting their bodies completely with chemo. It's very targeted research, so you'll hear like precision medicine, targeted therapy. So but yeah, it's amazing how far we've come with research, but it does really feel like we're on the brink of, we're so close. We've seen so many advancements in adult therapies. We need to get up to speed on, for children, because the therapies are not, they have not been as fast to approvals. And so that's something that LLS is investing $175 million. We're doing our own clinical trial sites to be able to see those same approvals with for our children that are first approved for children. So they're not being treated exactly the same as adults, because obviously their bodies are very different.
This is not a question that I had prepared or that I sent you for your review, but it occurred to me with the proliferation of AI, and especially in the last 6 to 12 months, are y'all utilizing AI technology at all in your search and just in your efforts?
I have to say I'm not 100% sure in terms of, how that's affecting. I would absolutely say that technology and, AI is absolutely impacting, excuse me, the medical world as well. One thing that I would say, I think I find fascinating, is like, even just within like a doctor's office, there's so much with like the electronic health records and different things that we are utilizing. So Kelly, I'm not 100% sure on the answer to that, but if I had to guess, I would say yes. But I would have to, dig in to find out a little bit more about how that's being used.
That was just
Yeah,
from the cup. So
interesting question.
what makes you feel inspired to do what you do?
Oh, I just love helping people. I know I love that every day, knowing that I get up and get to do something that ultimately is going to help a patient, a family member, a caregiver be able to find, a cure, to be able to find, new treatment options. We help our patients financially. There's so many people that are completely bankrupt from, the journey. And so being able to actually help people financially, emotionally, with education, you name it. That's what inspires me every day. And if I could just tack on our children one more time, because I know we need to do better for our kids. So they inspire me.
Okay. What's the biggest personal challenge that you've gone through, that you've overcome, that's made you better for that, just moving forward in your life?
There's honestly been several, to be honest with you. I have to just say, I think just having my own cancer diagnosis, it was about a year after. Probably the hardest thing for me was watching my mom go through it and hearing that, my mom had 93% of her blood was cancerous. And I took care of her during her stem cell transplant. That was really difficult, seeing someone that I love and admire so much going through that. But then, a year later, finding out that I had a very rare type of throat cancer, but my treatment was not that bad. But having to go back and tell my mom and dad and my kids that I, just got my cancer diagnosis, that was certainly a challenge. I am very fortunate in terms of my treatment protocol, but I was actually in the process of interviewing for my job at LLS when I was diagnosed.
Really?
Um, so I was trying to make sure that I extended my interview process as much as possible. So I did not have to switch insurance in the middle of switching jobs as well. So I like to tell people that now I was very hush hush, but I remember the radiation made my neck bleed. I was wearing turtlenecks to all my interviews. I had very dry mouth. Had about 8 bottles of water in my bag. Even though I was coming to a cancer organization, I was not comfortable sharing that I had cancer. So anyways, I would say that that was a pretty big challenge that I went through.
That's actually one of my other clients at the gym. And he's cancer free, but he went through throat cancer over this past year, and he was out for months because I don't know. He had surgery. I don't know if it was chemo or radiation, but I'm pretty sure there was that. And then he finally walked back in the gym, and I sent him a few cards and try to keep in touch with him, but he was finally ready to come back, and now he's back at the gym every day. God bless him. So
I love it. That's what it's all about, is those success stories. Kelly, I've always been fitness minded. I know we'll talk about that a little bit, but I was a marathon runner, and so my doctor told me, you're not going to feel good for about a year. And so I was like, perfect. I'll sign up for a half marathon 6 months from the day that I finished my treatment. So I did. I completed a half marathon.
did you
I
really?
just I had to go back and just let him know that not only did I feel like myself again, I completed a half marathon, and he just shook his head like, okay, Leah.
You're obsessed.
I just had to beat the odds, if he told me I wasn't going to feel good for a year, I was like, okay, I feel like I could do better than that.
Well, you did good. In fact, this is my pastor went through prostate cancer back in around 2009, 2010. And his doctor told him, look, it's going to take you about a year to feel normal again. And he's like, there's no way. And he tried to get right back in. I mean, he had surgery and he tried to get right back in the pulpit pretty quickly. And it took longer. I mean, it
Yeah.
just took time. Your body just has to
Yeah.
recover. So
I didn't say that it was smart what I did. I just said that I
you
did.
were
So,
driven. Well, I'm sure that having that target set, that helped. I mean, just
yeah.
you were driving yourself towards that goal. So I looked up because I was like, what is the Red River region? And so now I know, but to what extent do you go to Oklahoma and Arkansas? And I looked at all the different locations that you have, but how are you involved in, all those other locations, if at all?
Oh yeah, no. So we have 27 regions across Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and so ours is all of North Texas, which is a crazy amount of counties, but primarily we have events in Collin, Dallas, Tarrant County, and surrounding areas. But even in terms of our patient support, we go all the way up to Lubbock, Abilene, Tyler. So I have a very large area within North Texas, but then I have all of Oklahoma and all of Arkansas. So we have events and boards and committees in Oklahoma City and Tulsa, Northwest Arkansas. I'm actually heading out this afternoon to Northwest Arkansas, so I do go to, and then Little Rock as well. So spent a lot of time in Oklahoma and Arkansas, but primarily some of our largest events, and we have more events here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So I spend the majority of my time, and I live here as well.
So how do you, and that's I know that you're a marathon or that you're a runner. How do you juggle your job, your fitness, your family? You have a lot on your plate. How do you pull that off?
Just make time. I wake up pretty early, so everybody's a little bit different on when they fit stuff in, but I've always been kind of a morning workout person, so my alarm goes off early. I get to the gym in the morning before I start my day. When I'm traveling, sometimes it's hard, so I'll think about what I'm going to do in Northwest Arkansas. I'll probably hit the hotel gym, so try to just make myself a priority, even if it's only for a half an hour or an hour. I try to make sure that I can be my best for not only for my peers and our patients, but for my family as well. So yeah, I I can't remember if I answered that full question, but I
No,
have
no,
two
no.
daughters as well. So definitely trying to make sure that I'm a present mom and just try to balance it the most you can. But I believe that grace is incredibly important. So you also have to give yourself grace throughout because we can't do it all.
We are kindred spirits because I'm up
Mhm.
early and it's coffee and Bible and head to the gym, and then I feel like I can do anything. But that has been the foundation of how I've started my day for my adult life. And I'm not going to change that anytime soon. That's just how I'm wired now. So um, let's see. What's the best compliment you've ever received?
You know, I was told once by someone that I think compliments are, sometimes about who's giving them as well. So there was someone that I had have and had a ton of respect for, and he wrote me a letter just saying that he appreciated my servant leadership, and that always stuck with me. I think that when you are about serving others and someone else notices that, especially someone that you have a tremendous amount of respect for, that's what came to mind when I first heard that question.
Okay. So what's the best advice you've ever received?
I think it's, just allowing yourself some grace to fail. And sometimes you learn the most from, sometimes failing and not giving up. And, just to kind of add to that, I think it all goes together. But I think sometimes in life you're scared of change or so just kind of like removing some of that fear and being able to jump in head first and make sure you're making good decisions, but also not letting fear drive you. So maybe that was more than one, but
Okay, that's okay. I truly believe that it's the hard stuff in life that we grow from. It's not the easy stuff.
that's
Success is
right.
on the other side of failure, and or it's on the other side of struggle. So embrace it, because I mean, if you're doing something significant in life, you're going to go up against opposition. That's just the way that it is. So, um, how would your friends and family describe what you do?
Now that my kids are older, I think they actually they know what I do. But I would say I did have to ask them that question at one point. I asked some of my friends for something else I was doing, and they said that I serve others, that I manage and help lead a team and fundraise to bring in money for cancer research. I think that was the gist of what the combined comments were.
Okay. Um, if you could have dinner with three people, past or present, or a combination thereof, who would they be?
Oh gosh, my grandmother was someone that she passed away from leukemia when I was 16. But she was the grandma of all grandmas. So if I could, go back into the past and just have one more dinner with her, she's just absolutely my world. So if I had to, I don't know. Honestly, I thought about this question, Kelly, and I couldn't really come up with. I do think that I would love to, if I could go back into another past, Sam Walton of Walmart. I mean, come on, he passed away from blood cancer.
Really?
Like, and look at Walmart, I just think that that's like another one for me that I think about from a past and then just current. There's so many amazing people that, are leading big companies, big efforts. So I think, there's several people that come to mind for current. So I don't even know where to go with that one.
So I'm with you on the grandma thing. I still have one. My other grandparents are gone, but the grandmother that passed away about 10 years ago, I miss her still. Um, I think about her a lot. So, but someday. Um,
So I couldn't help but to say the thing about Sam Walton. Obviously didn't know him, but when I like even have just gone up to Northwest Arkansas and been to the museum, I just love that like he drove a broken down pickup truck, right? Just started what he started today. That somebody like that just served the people that worked for him, and just was so humble in, what was important to him. I just that for me, I'm like, I would love to have dinner with him.
Kind of reminds me of Warren Buffett, because Warren Buffett, if I'm accurate on this, Omaha, Nebraska, he lives in the same house that he's lived in for forever. Clearly, he could have a bigger home, but that's
Yeah.
not what's important to him. So,
Yeah.
Uh,
Some of the current people, and I won't say their names just because, I don't want to like call anybody out, but there's some absolutely philanthropic people here in Dallas that, I mean, what's stopping us from a cancer cure is money. And there's certainly, there's so many people that have the ability to fund cancer research. So if I had some of those people in a room, I could take them to dinner. I would ask them for a really large donation, Kelly, and I would not feel bad about it at all.
they can't take it with them. And so,
That's right.
so what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
I would say going back to the best advice I've ever received, I think I wish I would have like maybe heard that a little bit earlier, not being scared of taking the next step. I've made some pretty big career changes in my life. I took my young family from Florida to Texas for a job, jumped after 17 years to, LLS. But I would say that I did that with some fear and hesitation. So I would say that, there's sometimes where I think I held on to decisions for too long. Not making a decision is a decision. But I think, just out of fear, I could tell you my 20-year-old self was a little bit scared for some big changes. And I would say to go back and look at that and do it, looking at it like every day as a gift, right? So I mean, being able to not live in hesitation or fear is incredibly important.
I think I may be wrong on this. I love quotes. I love quotes and I love sharing quotes. I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt, maybe, but regardless of that's right. Do something every day that scares you. And that's not bad advice.
That's not bad advice. I like it.
Well, it's all about pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and or expanding your comfort zone. And if you don't push it, I mean, it's not going anywhere on its own. You've got to push. So
Great.
I call this my legacy question. How do you want to be remembered?
I would love to be remembered as someone who just loved to help and serve others, as a kind, compassionate, person that dedicated her life to helping others. That would be pretty amazing. And I definitely want to be remembered as a great mom.
Okay, fair enough. So I want to swing this back around to what we're doing together. And I would like for you to speak to the Visionaries campaign coming up in February. Just give that, because that's what she and I are going to be working on together initially. My goal overall is to dedicate the entire year to raising, but the first emphasis is going to be Visionaries of the Year. And then I'm going to continue to partner with LLS for the rest of the year, but it's just going to be different. So would you like to explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, first off, I'm happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
I know the birthday years, kicking that off to help others, Kelly. So I think it's absolutely amazing that we got connected. And as we were chatting, said, I think this Visionaries of the Year might be right up your alley. So our Visionaries of the Year, we have a leadership team that throughout the year, and our staff are, thinking about community leaders, people that want to, lend a hand in helping to find a cure and helping patients. And so these we call them candidates. So our visionary candidates sign on, and really work with our staff to be able to think about how they can make the biggest impact, both in awareness and fundraising. And so it is a 10-week campaign, which is really fun because it's competitive. So it's these visionary candidates that are competing against each other, if you will, in a silent competition, that over the course of the 10 months, so the kickoff, begins, and over that 10 weeks, it's to see how much these candidate teams. So as a visionary, you can have as many team members doesn't have to be here locally. You can have people on your team, as from all over the country, that would join your team. And when you look at a team member, that collective impact is incredible. When we come and get to the grand finale and we announce the visionary winner, the runner up, but then also each visionary candidate runs underneath a mission pillar. So it could be research, it could be advocacy, or it could be patient support. And those are three areas that there are pillars of LLS. And so you pick that pillar that you want to run under. And it's also an opportunity for you to spread the word over the course of the 10 months around that mission pillar that you've selected. So we also have some, team member of the year. We have some research and mission pillar awards as well. But truly the grand finale is just an opportunity to celebrate, find out how you compared to the other visionary candidates, be able to announce those winners. But the, best part about that evening is when it's drum roll, here's what everybody's collective totals add up to be. And you get to see how everybody in that room work together for that ultimate, dollar amount that's announced.
So you can see now, and I'm speaking to them again, that when she and I first talked and she explained all that, I just thought, because I was just looking for help. And it's like it was right in front of me. It was just a matter of saying, yes, let's work together. And so here we go. Thank you so much for your time today and for sharing.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I'm so excited to work with you. And I cannot wait to see what we accomplish together.
Okay, so you take care. I know I will be talking to you soon, and have a great week.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Leah. Goodbye.